a learning organization and committed to holistic development of its people. In pursuance of learning, NTPC PMI started Eminent Speaker Series last year. In the pursuance of learning in this series, we are privileged to host eminent speakers like Shri Jaggi Vasudevanji, Paralympic silver medalist, Deepa Malik, Magsaysay Awardee Jal Purush, Shri Rajinder Singh Ji, and Padma Shri Dr. Debbie Shetty, the renowned cardiac surgeon of India. In this fifth episode, we are privileged, we are honored to have amongst us Padma Bhushan Dr. E. Sreedharan, popularly known as the Metro Man. The man with his team changed the face of public transport in India. NTPC welcomes you, sir. NTPC also welcomes Shri I.S. Jha, sir, Chairman and Managing Director, PGCIL. You are welcome, sir. We welcome our Director, Finance, Shri Kulmani Vishwal, sir, Director, Commercial, Shri A.K. Gupta, sir, and all Senior Executive Directors, General Managers, everyone. May I now invite Shri Sunil Trivedi, GM PMI, to kindly introduce the guest of the day.
So the entire team of NTPC Power Management Institute feels pride and excitement in extending a most reverential welcome to Padma Vibhushan Shri E. Sreedharan Sahab. We extend a most respectful welcome to CMD Power Grid Shri Jhaji, to our Director Finance Shri K. Biswal, Director Commercial Shri A.K. Gupta. A most warm welcome to all the thousands of members of Team NTPC, Team NHPC and Team Power Grid who are watching this live from more than 50 different locations across the country, and all of you in this auditorium. A special welcome to our invitees and a very affectionate welcome to the young engineer executive trainees, EETs as they are called, from NTPC and NHPC sitting in this auditorium. Sir, Sreedharan sir will be glad to know that the senior leadership of NTPC today, sir, follows the kind of culture that you have been espousing all your life. They are reinforcing the culture of performance based upon values and professional ethics. They discourage pomp and paraphernalia, protocol and pageant. This NTPC PMI Eminent Speaker Series is also an attempt to inculcate value-based learning. The speakers like you represent the best of human character and competence. So an overwhelming majority of today's audience are engineers. And they are going to benefit from the sage counsel of one of the greatest engineers that this country has seen, the world has seen. In line with NTPC leadership's focus on values, NTPC PMI has put up a gallery on leadership just behind this auditorium, sir. It has about 25 sterling stories of values and principles, challenges and triumphs. Two of these stories feature two great engineers from our country, M. Vishweshwaraya and E. Sreedharan. Both of them are among builders of modern India. I request the audience to especially look at these two brief stories to have a glimpse of their greatness. These are available on the intranet also for all NTPC employees. So on June 12, 2017, Sreedharan sir completed 85 years of his great personal journey. And every Indian like us prays for this illustrious journey to go on and on and on. His professional contribution of over 60 years is marked by 36 years in railways, from 1954 to 1990, when he superannuated as member engineering railway board. But India needed his services. It still does. After superannuation, he was requested to lead the most challenging project of building Konkan railways, which even the Britishers had found too daunting to take up. After his success in Konkan, which is an epic of innovations, he was persuaded to lead the Delhi Metro project, which is a very well-known success story. Both these projects are iconic in their impact in life-changing habits of the people of India when it comes to public transportation. They are subject to several studies. The Delhi Metro brought about a metro revolution of sorts in India, and we just had the privilege of talking to Sir for a few minutes. Practically every government which is into metro is seeking his guidance in mentoring, guiding, and monitoring those projects all across the country. Awards and recognitions have been chasing Sreedharan sir. It's not the other way around. It's a very, very long list and will require a lot of time to mention them all. However, just a few. He has been featured as an Asian hero in the Time magazine of America. The governments of Japan and France have conferred highest honors on him. He has been given many honorary doctorates. In a list of all-time great civil engineers in the world on Wikipedia, he features with the engineers who built the Eiffel Tower, the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and the Burj Khalifa. Sir, you are truly a pride of India. His biography, aptly captioned Karma Yogi, is a must-read for today's engineers, managers, public sector professionals, and every citizen of India. Once the biographer of Sreedharan, sir, took a very long interview of his. As he was leaving, the attendant came and told Sreedharan, sir, that a man was waiting with his son to meet him. They did not have any prior appointment. The son was selected for an engineering job. The father had worked for the railways. They wanted the boy to start his career after seeking the blessings of Sreedharan sir. The trainees of NTPC and NHPC sitting here are so fortunate that sir is here to bless them all. So, just a bit about Vishweshwaraya sir and him, that there is some kind of correspondence. The impact of Vishweshwaraya's major work on the country was felt around the early part of 20th century. And the impact of his contributions, so these are century makers. His impact was being felt by the public in the beginning of 21st century. I will add one prayer that Vishweshwaraya sir went on to celebrate his own centenary. We wish the same happens here, and the country celebrates his centenary, and he's there. So greatness, humility, and spirituality are aspects of the same phenomenon. We may call it greatness. In Sreedharan sir's office would be a frame containing a sentence from Yoga Vashishta. It says, Karyam karomi, nahi kinchidaham karomi. I merely perform my duty. I don't do anything. Karyam karomi, nahi kinchidaham karomi. He doesn't nurture any sense of being a great doer or a creator. He also believes, nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitramiha vidyate. There is nothing as pious as learning and knowledge in this entire world. So let us learn reverentially from this pious Karma Yogi, who always demonstrates the path of nation building and character building. So it so happened that our chairman and Director HR had to go for a parliamentary committee on assurances being held at Bhubaneswar on short notice. And he, along with our Director Finance, Director Commercial, entire team of senior leadership has been espousing this cause of learning from outside in, from greats like you. Sadar Pranam from entire NTPC family. Sreedharan sir, thank you all.
Thank you, Sunil sir, for such enriching and impactful introduction of Dr. Sreedharan. May I invite Director of Finance, Kulamani Vishwal sir, to share thoughts on the moment.
Respected Padma Vibhushan, Dr. E. Sreedharan Saab, CMD PGCL, Mr. Jha, my colleague, Mr. Gupta, Director Commercial, senior officers of NTPC, NSPC, and Power Grid, and the people who are watching from distance through video conferencing, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think that I should speak something after Mr. Trivedi's speech. He has given a very elaborate speech. So it is better to listen our speaker, our eminent speaker today, Dr. Sreedharan. Simply I can say he is a karma yogi. And just I was going through that karma yogi written by M.S. Ashokan. And he always believes in karma, as it is written in Bhagavad Gita. He is a great follower of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavatam he used to read, he reads every day, what I understand from his biography. Karmanye vadhikaraste ma phalesu kadachan. To work we have the rights. We should not think of the fruits thereof. Automatically fruit will come as per your deed. He is also called Metro Man. He has changed the face of public transport system. Now, once he was told, he was asked that after retirement what he will do, he said that I should go back to my village, stay there, I will walk along the backwaters, evening and morning, teach the poor students. In fact, he has a school in his village and also help the poor persons. But perhaps time and the demand is not allowing him. But now he is not overseeing the only Delhi metro, or he is overseeing. There are 20 metros all over countries, be it Lucknow, Kanpur, Visakhapatnam, Kerala, everywhere he is there. So I wish him long life. I wish him we should also celebrate his centenary, and without taking much of your time, because people are excited and eagerly waiting to listen to you, sir. So now I would like to conclude. Thank you very much. Once again, welcome to NTPC.
Thank you, Vishwal sir. Ladies and gentlemen, moment has arrived. May I now request Director of Finance, Vishwal sir, Director Commercial, Gupta sir, to kindly accompany the guests of the day, E. Sreedharan Saab and I.S. Jha Saab, to dais. May I request Director Commercial, Sri A.K. Gupta sir, to kindly welcome Dr. Sreedharan with a bouquet of flowers. Thank you, Gupta sir. May I now request Director of Finance. Thank you. Bishwal sir to kindly present Angavastra to Dr. Sreedharan. Thank you. Thank you, Vishwal sir. May I now request I.S. Jha sir, CMD PG SAL, to kindly present Angavastra to Dr. Sreedharan. Thank you, sirs. May I now request Gupta sir, Jha sir, and Bishwal sir to kindly take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, I will withdraw myself from you and the guest of the day, Padma Vibhushan Dr. E. Sreedharan.
Respected Mr. Jha, CMD of Power Grid Corporation, respected Mr. Biswal, Director, NTPC, Mr. Gupta, Director Commercial, NTPC, Mr. Bhatnagar, who has been made responsible for getting me over here for this talk, senior officers of NTPC, faculties of this Power Management Institute, trainees assembled here, listeners of Power Grid Corporation and NHPC who are already wired to this room. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel really privileged and indeed honored to be a part of this Eminent Speaker Series, and I once again thank Mr. Bhatnagar for giving me this wonderful opportunity to visit this Power Management Institute, go around and see the campus, all the classrooms, etc. It has been a very, very wonderful experience. I don't know on what subject I should really speak to you all. Having done a number of large infrastructure projects for the country, I thought I would share with you 3 projects which I had the opportunity to handle. One, when I was in the railway service itself, at a very young age, at the age of 32, as an executive engineer, a project which I accomplished near Rameswaram, that is restoration of the Pamban Bridge. I want to very fondly recollect what has been achieved there. The other 2 projects are after I retired from the Indian Railways service and took up. One was the Konkan Railway project and the other, the Delhi Metro project. Ladies and gentlemen, in handling these projects, one project was handled as a departmental work of the Indian Railways, that is restoration of the Pamban Bridge. The other two were handled as public sector undertaking like NTPC, Power Grid Corporation, NHPC, etc. What are the challenges? What are the problems met with? And how we were able to get over these problems and deliver the projects on time and at the estimated cost. That is very important. The Konkan Bridge restoration is a very remarkable type of work that I had to do. You must have heard about the Konkan railway bridge, which is about 2 kilometers in length, connecting Rameswaram Island with the mainland of India. This bridge, which was built at the end of 19th century, it was a meter gauge railway bridge at that time. This bridge got washed out through a series of tidal waves. I'm calling them tidal waves because it was really a tsunami. But we were not familiar with the word tsunami in those days, so we used to call them tidal waves. Tidal waves as high as 15 meters, 12 to 15 meters high. This happened on the night of 24th December 1964. And these tidal waves in the night washed away. This bridge consists of 146 spans of 40 feet girders, plus what is known as a Scherzer span. A Scherzer span of 300 feet length, that is 100 meters length, which could open and allow ships to pass below the bridge. That is called Scherzer span. And out of these 146 spans of this bridge, 126 spans got washed away by the tidal waves. And serious damages caused to the Scherzer span, which could not be operated because of the damage caused to it. More than that, one full train having about 250 passengers, which is going from Mandapam, that is Mandapam to Rameswaram and Dhanushkodi. Dhanushkodi was the terminus at that time of the Southern Railway. This whole train was washed out completely. And there was not even a single survivor from this train. The whole train was washed out. And because in those days, it was predominantly wooden body coaches. The wooden coaches came back to the shore after 3 days and 4 days. Just the superstructure of the coaches only came back. Not even a single survivor to tell us what really happened. And this happened, as I told you, on 23rd night, 1964. At that time, I was only an executive engineer in the railways, just 32 years old, and I was having my Christmas holidays in my native place. And on 26th, I received summons from the chief engineer, asking me to report immediately to Southern Railway headquarters at Chennai, and said that I have been picked up among the engineers in South for the restoration of this bridge. When the bridge was so badly damaged, there was aerial survey conducted to see the damages. There were also foot survey conducted. And the engineers came to the conclusion that it was not worthwhile to restore this bridge at all, because a road bridge connecting the mainland and Rameswaram Island was being planned simultaneously. And they thought that it would be better to speed up the construction of the road bridge and give the connection to Rameswaram Island. But the pilgrims, particularly the people's representatives, members of parliament from north, they have found affinity to Rameswaram as a pilgrim center. In the parliament, there was huge demand that the railway bridge should be restored and communication established as early as possible. A report was called from Southern Railway, who reported that it would take minimum 6 months' time to restore the bridge, because in the process, 126 spans were washed out. When I say spans were washed out, it is the girders which were washed out and the track. But 2 piers also got completely knocked down. They had to be rebuilt. Anyway, the railway took a decision to restore the bridge and gave 6 months' time for restoring it. When I reported at Chennai, the chief engineer took me to general manager. One Mr. B.C. Ganguly was the general manager of Southern Railway, a very eminent civil engineer. And he told me that the pilgrims cannot wait 6 months to go to Rameshwaram, because the only way to cross this 2-kilometer stretch of sea was only by boats, and power boats were not available in those days. All manually paddled boats had to be used to go to the Rameshwaram temple. He said people cannot wait for 6 months, you must restore it in 3 months' time. This was the mandate given to me. I proceeded to the site. Railway line was not available to read the site because a lot of railway lines were washed out. With the help of bullock carts and jeeps, I read the site, surveyed the damaged situation completely, and took up the restoration work. Ladies and gentlemen, I brought this particular project for discussion today or for presentation to you today, mainly because of 2 reasons. One was, as against the time of 3 months given to me by the general manager, and 6 months' time set by the railway board for restoration of this bridge, the bridge was restored in 46 days. The railway's own estimation was 6 months' time. There was a reason for it, because 126 girders were simply washed out, and 126 steel girders had to be brought to the site, brought over to the site, launched, and then the track to be constructed over it. Then only the bridge could be opened, and 2 piers had to be rebuilt also in between. There are no ready girders available. A few girders had to be manufactured. Girders had to be brought from Assam, Jalandhar, Delhi, all over the country. The girders had to be picked up and brought to the site. The logistic involved in getting the girders itself was quite a large time. That is why they estimated 6 months' time for restoration. This restoration was possible only what is known by innovation. Innovation in engineering. I'll come back to the subject a little later, because this is one thing that engineers have to learn. Innovate, to do things fast, to do things cheaper. The other project is the Konkan Railway. Konkan Railway is a 760-kilometer long broad gauge railway line connecting Mumbai to Mangalore along the west coast of India. The railway line passes through one of the most difficult terrains ever encountered in the history of railway construction in this country. This will be evident to you when I mention that for constructing this Konkan Railway, as many as 93 tunnels for a total length of 83.5 kilometers have to be bored through some of the hills with very treacherous soil conditions. What is known as lateritic soil conditions, very treacherous soil conditions for doing tunneling. There were 149 major bridges to be constructed. I mentioned to you about 93 tunnels. The longest tunnel on this line is 6.5 kilometers in length near Ratnagiri. And there were 9 tunnels more than 3 kilometers in length. Out of the 157 major bridges, the longest bridge was across Sharavati River near Karwar, which is about 2 kilometers in length. There are very difficult bridges to be constructed across Zuari River, Mandavi River, etc. in Goa area. And there are about 6,000 minor bridges also to be constructed. More than anything, these technical challenges involved, the main social challenge was acquiring land for constructing the 760-kilometer long line. We had to acquire land from 40,000 landowners. You can imagine the colossal task involved in this. This is the technical and social problems. But the biggest problem was raising the money for building this railway line. You are all aware, in this country, all new railway lines are constructed with government funds, railway funds, made available through the successive railway budgets. Usually in those days, the allocation for new railway lines used to be hardly about 300 or 400 crores for the whole year for all new railway lines under construction. And this cost of this line alone was at that time about 2,400 crores. And there are about 35 railway lines under construction. So if Konkan Railway was to be constructed, out of the railway owned allocation of funds, it would have taken about 35 years for completing this to get the money required for the project. So a very innovative scheme for raising funds for the project was evolved. What I would call a financial engineering as such was done to see that the project was completed. The scheme was to rope in all the state governments along the route, Maharashtra, Goa and Karnataka, and Kerala as well. 4 state governments and Indian Railways. So a joint company was formed, known as Konkan Railway Corporation Limited, with 51% share by Indian Railways and 49% share held by the 4 state governments, in proportion to the length of the railway line in each state. The line does not go to Kerala at all, but the people staying in Kerala were the biggest beneficiary of this line. The benefit was mainly in reduction in the travel length. By constructing this line, the distance from Bombay to Kochi got reduced by 650 kilometers. You can just imagine what is the advantage in 650 kilometers reduction in journey length and journey time as well. What will come out of it? The state governments were initially most unwilling to be partners because they said railway is a central subject and we have nothing to do. Why should we spend money for the Konkan Railway project? The railways themselves should do it. It was a Herculean task going to each of the state governments and getting their consent to be part of the whole project and getting their agreement to fund their share of the project. This could not be done by the politicians. This was done only by the Konkan Railway Corporation itself. The Konkan Railway, many of you may not be aware that this is the only railway line in the country today which can take up trains, which can run trains at 160 kilometers speed. We have trains running at 120, that is Rajdhani Expresses running at 120 kilometers. There are Shatabdi Expresses running at 130 kilometers per hour. But the railway track itself permits only 110 kilometers generally, highest speed. And because the special type of coaches used for these trains, only we are able to achieve 130. But Konkan railway track has been designed in such a way that it can run trains at 160 straight away, provided we have engines and coaches which are fit to run at that speed. Today we don't have them. That's why the speed potential of Konkan railway is not fully utilized. With all these technical challenges involved on Konkan railway and the challenges involved in raising money for the project, this gigantic railway project was completed at a ridiculously short time of 7 years. This is, and this railway line was handed over to me the day I retired from the Indian Railways as member of the Indian Railway Board. The then Railway Minister, Mr. George Fernandez, decided that I should head the Konkan Railway project as its chairman and managing director. Why I mentioned this railway project, the difficulties involved in raising money, the technical challenges involved, and the social impacts of acquiring land from about 40,000 people. These things should be in your mind, how this was possible. Then only we'll understand what is possible if there is a determination and a willingness to take up such challenging projects. The third project is Delhi Metro. Ladies and gentlemen, for your information, Delhi Metro is not the first metro line in this country. That distinction goes to Calcutta Metro, which was started in early 1960s and got completed in 1994. I had the privilege and opportunity to be part of the Calcutta Metro as the Deputy Chief Engineer Planning in those days. That was my role in the Calcutta Metro. But I was only involved in the planning and design of the civil structures. By the time actual construction started, I had to leave Calcutta Metro and go for another assignments given to me. But the Calcutta Metro experience was not particularly a pleasant one, either for the city of Calcutta itself or for the country as a whole. You may wonder why. This 11-kilometer long railway line, metro line, mostly underground, but about 2 kilometers above ground, took 22 years. This 11-kilometer metro line took 22 years for completion, and the cost went up by 14 times. Not only that, during the construction of this line, the city of Calcutta was put to under very serious difficulties and inconveniences. The central avenue of Calcutta was just kept open and kept like that for years and years. There were building collapses, there were very many accidents. With this difficulty in constructing a metro in Calcutta, all the state governments and government of India backed out from further metros in the country. Although at that time, along with the Calcutta Metro, government has already set up metropolitan transport project organizations at Delhi, Mumbai, and Chennai. With the problems involved and the time taken and the way the cost went up, they decided that we will not proceed with any more metros in the country. So ultimately, by 1994, Calcutta Metro was completed. But Delhi being the capital of the country and growing at a very, very fast pace, provision of metro system became unavoidable. Therefore, ultimately, in 1996, the Delhi Metro project was sanctioned by Government of India. Judging from the experience of Calcutta Metro, which was executed by Indian Railways as a departmental project, even today, Calcutta Metro is part of Indian Railways. It has got its own zonal railway manager. Seeing the difficulties involved, the difficulties in raising money, and the implementation problems, it was decided to form a special purpose vehicle for constructing the Delhi Metro. In that process only, Delhi Metro Rail Corporation was set up. It's a joint venture company with 50% equity participation by Government of India through Ministry of Urban Development and 50% participation by Government of Delhi. For starting the Delhi Metro, government was searching for somebody to take over the metro project. They advertised, they invited people. They were not able to find a suitable person for taking up as the managing director of Delhi Metro Rail Corporation. So the Government of India and the Delhi government jointly set up a search committee who will search out a suitable candidate for taking over this job. I was a member of the search committee. Although we invited a number of applications and interviewed many people, it was not possible to find a suitable person for heading the Delhi Metro. A person with sufficient technical background, sufficient experience. By that time, the Japanese government had pledged a loan, funds for the Delhi Metro project, and time was running out. And the Japanese government, through JICA in those days, it was not called JICA, it was JICA's predecessor. They gave an ultimatum to the Government of India that unless you post a chief executive for the project, we are withdrawing the loan commitment that has been given for the project. Japan had agreed to give 60% of the project cost. And the two governments, Delhi government and Government of India, had to share only 40%, almost 20% each. So having been driven to the wall, they had to find somebody immediately. At that time, I was chairman and managing director of Konkan Railway Corporation. We are about to complete the Konkan Railway. And the Delhi government decided that I should be picked up for the Delhi Metro project. I will not go into those details, what all problems they had to face to appoint me because Railway was not willing to release me from the Konkan Railway. The mandarins in the ministries, by the time I was already 65 years old, they said nobody can be employed above 65 for being the chief executive of a project of this type. There were lots of problems. At that stage, there was a very dynamic cabinet secretary, T.S.R. Subramaniam. He wrote on the file, if the Prime Minister of the country, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister, he was 78 at that time, if the country could be run by a Prime Minister at the age of 78, why can't Delhi Metro be run by an engineer who is 65 years old? That was how I got involved in Delhi Metro project. When I took over Delhi Metro project, I had two responsibilities: completing the Konkan Railway and taking up the Delhi Metro project as well. So for a few months, I was in charge of both the projects until the Konkan railway project was completed and handed over. I had to be in charge of that also, and in charge of the Delhi Metro Corporation as well. The first phase of the Delhi Metro, covering about 65 kilometers, of which 16 kilometers were underground and the remaining elevated, at a cost of 10,500 crores, was to be completed in 10 years' time. So when I took over, the mandate given to me was the first phase of Delhi Metro should be completed in 10 years' time. When I took over Delhi Metro, there was no office. There is nothing at all, not even a chair to sit. Fortunately, I had a chamber as the CMD of Konkan Railway, a chamber in Rail Bhavan. So I started functioning from that chamber as MD of Delhi Metro as well. Started building the organization, purchased an office to start with, and then started functioning. The first decision we took was a metro project for Delhi was already delayed very badly. And people of Delhi cannot wait for 10 years to have the luxury or the convenience of a metro. So we took a decision on our own that we would complete the first phase of the Delhi Metro in 7 years' time. Ladies and gentlemen, there was no compulsion from the government, either of the two governments. There was no directive from any government that the project time implementation period should be compressed to 7 years. That decision was taken by ourselves. And I'm happy to inform you that as against 7 years' time that we fixed for ourselves to complete the project, the first phase of the Delhi Metro was completed in 7 years and 3 months. Almost 2 years and 9 months ahead of schedule. And more important, the project was completed exactly well within the estimated cost of 10,500 crores. Encouraged by the success of the first phase, the government sanctioned the second phase of Delhi Metro as well, at a cost of 24,000 crores, covering 124 kilometers. The second phase was sanctioned immediately, and that also we took up. The time fixed for the completion of the second phase at that time was 6 years, because we thought that we have gained some experience. That was a time given by us. We'll finish it in 6 years' time. And we had all the experienced people with us. We could finish in time, in 6 years' time. After the second phase was started, the country had the opportunity to stage the Commonwealth Games in 2010, October. It had to be staged. And that gave only 4.5 years' time to complete the second phase. And the government requested us that the second phase should be completed in time for the Commonwealth Games, which gives only just 4.5 years' time. This 124 kilometers of metro. Just imagine, 11 kilometers Calcutta Metro took 22 years, and here 124 kilometers of second phase of Delhi Metro to be completed in 4.5 years' time. We took up the challenge. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud to inform you that the last line, line number 6 of Delhi Metro, was commissioned on the morning of the Commonwealth Games starting. So precisely, we completed this second phase. The morning the Commonwealth Games was inaugurated, that day the 6th line was completed. And on that day, about 75,000 people from Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium could be evacuated by the metro system in just 1 hour's time. That was possible only because the metro was available. And of course, naturally, when we finished Delhi Metro phase 2 in 4.5 years' time, mind you, it was the fastest metro construction in any city anywhere in the world. This could be done. The third phase was immediately sanctioned. Third phase covers about 145 kilometers, out of which some few kilometers have been already opened. It is going on. Now, why did I mention these three particular projects before you? They were all government projects. One was done as a departmental work. The restoration of Pamban Bridge was done as a departmental work. The other two were done by government companies. The Delhi Metro Rail Corporation and the Konkan Railway Corporation. And you know, for the problems that normally faced by government companies in executing the project. Being government companies, we were under the purview of the normal governmental watchdogs. I would call them watchdogs, like the Central Vigilance Commission, the Controller and Auditor General of India, C&AG, and the parliamentary committees and legislative committees. Here, Delhi Metro has got not only a parliamentary committee, even legislative committees. We were all under the purview of these statutory organizations. In spite of that, how is that we were able to complete this project on time, or even before time, and all within the estimated cost? This is a lesson or experience that I want to share with all of you. How was that possible? Ladies and gentlemen, this was possible only because of the unique work culture of these three different organizations. I would say the two government organizations. The other was a departmental work. There also, how we were able to do it. What is this unique culture? This is what I want to place before you, because there is a lesson that all the public sector undertaking in the country can draw from the experience of how these projects have been completed. The four cardinal pillars of this work culture are: 1, punctuality; 2, punctuality; 2, professional competence; 3, integrity; 4th, a social commitment. This was the cardinal pillars of this work culture. I would like to go into this work culture a little more detail, because there is a lesson that we have to learn from all these things. There is a fifth factor also in this work culture, which will come to you a little later. A fifth factor involved in this work culture: punctuality. What is punctuality? If you really see what is punctuality, is nothing but respecting the time of others. You respect the time of others. I was so happy that we set this talk to start at 10 o'clock. And all of you would have noticed that we started exactly at 10 o'clock. The credit goes to Mr. Bhatnagar. Of course, I was constantly reminding him that we should start exactly at 10 o'clock. In these two organizations, Konkan Railway and Delhi Metro, punctuality meant not 1 minute late or not 1 minute early as well. This fastidious outlook for punctuality is very important in any project implementation. Particularly in these two projects, because we knew that the Konkan Railway as well as Delhi Metro, these are projects meant for running trains. Ultimately, you have to run trains. And we realized that if we want our trains to be punctual, we have to be ourselves very punctual to start with. Everyone has to be very punctual. This punctuality is practiced in such a, as I told you, a very fastidious spirit in these two organizations. Very punctual in all matters. Not merely in attending the office, not merely in normal official engagements, even in social engagements, we wish to be very, very particular about this punctuality. And the emphasis on punctuality, what is the return that we have got out of it? Which will be very evident if you see the Delhi Metro, how it is functioning today. On an average, DMRC operates, Delhi Metro Rail Corporation, I'll call it DMRC, operates about 3,300 trains a day. World over, the punctuality of metro trains is judged by 3 minutes. If trains reach destination within 3 minutes of the published timetable, it is deemed to have full punctuality. In Delhi Metro, we decided right from day one that our least count for punctuality would be 60 seconds, not 3 minutes, 1 minute. If the train is not reaching the destination within 60 seconds, it is deemed to have lost punctuality. We had to tighten our belt very much. We have to educate our staff very much, bring them into the discipline. DMRC also has got an institute to train our people. The main emphasis was on punctuality at every stage. And do you know the fallout of this emphasis on punctuality? When I left Delhi Metro Rail Corporation in 2011, the punctuality performance of Delhi Metro was 99.97%. There has been no deterioration in the punctuality performance even now. It may not be 99.97, probably 99.95, something like that. Such high level of punctuality performance was possible only because of the emphasis on punctuality. But it has got another aspect as well. Why did we have this punctuality emphasis even to the project implementation stage? You see the result, how we were able to complete projects on time or before time. We were very, very particular about this. And for watching the timely completion of projects, we used to set up what is known as reverse clocks in all the offices, in all the work sites. A reverse clock is a clock which gives how many days are still left for completing that segment of the project or that particular line. And each day the clock will automatically lose 1 day and give you so many days are left for completing this project. We used to keep a margin. If the project is to be done in 3 years' time, the clock used to be put for 2 years and 9 months, something like that, always keeping a margin. This clock used to be a constant reminder for everyone involved in the project. Engineers, designers, contractors, suppliers, that only so many days are left. They have to be on their toes. This is how we were able to complete the project on time. These clocks were put up even at the work sites. A tunnel is under construction. And this I started with Konkan Railway, this practice. At every tunnel entry, there will be a clock put up. So many days are left for completing this tunnel. This is how we were watching. We were not adopting, these modern methods of project management, I can tell you. It was basically a common sense approach, ground to earth approach to see that projects are completed on time. That is how we were managing. And that was highly successful. The next part of the work culture is integrity. When I say integrity, it doesn't mean just honesty or absence of corruption. It is something much more than that, integrity. If you pick up the Oxford Dictionary and see the meaning of integrity, it says having good moral values. This is integrity. And we were so particular about this integrity part of it. Anyone who is inducted to the organization, anybody pick it up for the organization, the main thing we used to see is what is the man's integrity? What is track record in regard to integrity? I was not very much bothered about the technical competence of the person so much, because we knew that if he doesn't have the required technical knowledge or competence, he can be taught, he can learn it, or we can get somebody who knows it to help him. But if the man doesn't have basic integrity, this cannot be borrowed, this cannot be purchased. He must have it himself. A great emphasis on integrity was therefore laid on every individual. For that, what we do is, we first of all decided that the organization will be a very slim organization for implementation. Whether it's Konkan Railway or Delhi Metro, a very small organization. And we eliminated all unproductive layers of the organization at all. We knew that most of them are all engineering technical works, and the organization consists of only technical people. We hardly had any clerks, babus, except in the HR department and the finance department. In the technical side, nobody at all. Everybody will do his own work himself. More than that, there were no peons in the organization. You may not know probably this, that Delhi Metro does not have peons. They have peons only for the directors, that's all, and the managing director, personal peons. There are only peons attached to a section of the office for carrying files. Officers will carry their own files. Very few. There were no clerks, there were no peons, there were no stenographers, very few stenographers, except for the very senior officers. Otherwise, everybody will do his own work on the computer. That is how this organization is. So, very slim organization. That also helped in having the decision-making process very fast. What I found was two things: unnecessary layers in the organization, and having full trust on the people who work with you. This hastens any decision-making process. As a managing director of Delhi Metro or CMD of Konkan Railway, huge tenders we used to float. Some of our tenders were 1,500, 2,000 crores value tenders. We had no difficulty in settling the tenders fast. Mainly because of this, we knew the man had the integrity. Nothing will be done. And the decision-making process was very fast. There were so many layers to jump for a decision to be taken. No, that was not allowed. You'll be surprised to know that in phase 2 of Delhi Metro project, the average time taken for deciding tenders, some of the tenders were, as I told you, 1,800 crores, 1,400 crores. There are a large number of tenders. The average time taken for deciding a tender was 18 days. That is how the project could be taken up so fast. And that was possible only because we could trust who has handled the tender, who was the tender committee members, which director has processed it. If you have confidence in him, there is nothing to waste time on this. In writing the English, that's all what is required. And again, this emphasis on integrity, that also has its own values, I can tell you that. When the Commonwealth Games was staged in Delhi, all the players involved in the Commonwealth Games, there are so many allegations, so many court cases. Some people were arrested, some people were behind bars. Delhi Metro was the biggest player in the Commonwealth Games, the infrastructure project. There was not even a single allegation, a single scandal about what has been done by Delhi Metro. Ladies and gentlemen, this reputation for integrity is so important for any organization. If the organization, the top management has got this reputation, you don't have vigilance cases, you don't have audit paras. It is not that there are no vigilance cases in Delhi Metro. It's not that there are no audit paras. There is also a chief vigilance officer in Delhi Metro of the rank of a joint secretary to Government of India. But nobody was bothered about these things. If things are done that any decision taken in the best interest of the organization, nobody would question it. But if you only want to stick to the rules and regulations and procedures, there are problems, there are delays. The biggest litmus test for any decision is it in the best interest of the organization or not? If that is done, you can always justify your decision in any forum, at any level. It is possible. So integrity is most important for any, that is a very, very, that is the crown stone of the arch of the organization's philosophy, integrity. The third thing I mentioned was professional competence. The two projects I mentioned, including the other project that the restoration of the Palm Ridge, it's all highly technical projects. The technology involved is so much. I mentioned to you about Konkan Railway. It has adopted frontline technologies in all areas of bridges, tunnels, embankments, railway track, everything. The latest technologies have been introduced there. Delhi Metro is such a complex, technically complex project, particularly in regard to signaling, power supply, power distribution, and rolling stock. How could we do all these projects unless you know the subject very well? True. When Delhi Metro Phase 1 was started up, this country did not have any experience or any expertise for planning, designing, or implementing a metro project. We did not have it. So what we decided to engage international consultants to assist us in this process. In that process, general consultants was engaged for Phase 1 of the project. But mind you, we engaged them only for Phase 1. By the time the Phase 1 was completed, we learned the tricks of the trade. We were able to take up Phase 2, Phase 3, all by ourselves, without the help of foreign consultants. And foreign consultants we had to keep only for namesake because of the compulsion of the lending agencies, like JICA, World Bank. They insist that consultants should be kept. For that purpose, we used to keep a room, a chair for them just to be available there. But the whole thing was done by ourselves. And not only we could do Delhi Metro, there are today 13 metros going on in the country. And all these metros, the investigations and preparation of detailed project reports, they're all done by Delhi Metro Rail Corporation, I can tell you, except for Nagpur Metro. Even Nagpur Metro was done by Delhi Metro Rail Corporation. All the metros in the country going on today, the investigations and studies required were all done by Delhi Metro. They prepared the project report and they helped the different organizations to get the clearances from Government of India and the state concerned. That means, in regard to metro, we are completely self-sufficient today. Not only that, by the time second phase of Delhi Metro works commenced, there were 3 metro coach building factories already set up in the country. We can produce our own coaches, metro coaches, we can even export from this country today. this technical competence, knowledge is so important. If you know your job very well, you have the confidence, you have the self-assurance, you have the competence to execute the project fast. If you know your job very well, the people below you will worship you. If you know your job very well, the people above you will patronize you all the time. So this is very important, to know your job very well. While introducing me, the speaker mentioned that Jnanena sadrisam pavitram hena vidyate. He mentioned like that. There is nothing so sacred as knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, whatever position you are holding, whichever post you are going to go later on, see that you know the job very well. It is very easy to pick up the knowledge. An organization like NTPC has got such an excellent training institution, where you get opportunities to go again and again back to institute like this to learn things. You have access today with the internet and all at your fingertips. Knowledge can be acquired in no time. But most important thing is acquiring knowledge through observations, through studies. Going abroad, you may go abroad or any other place for very many things. But your particular field, keep special attention to learn things on your own. The first thing I did when I started Delhi Metro, at least Konkan Railway was a railway subject, only we had to go for the frontline technologies. But Delhi Metro, we had nothing at all. What I did was, the selected people, about 35, 40 senior engineers, I sent them all abroad to see various metros in the country, in the world, study their own areas, learn the techniques, understand the technology, come back. And they in turn became trainers for others. By the time we set up our own training institute as well. This is how we were able to make completely self-dependent in regard to the technical knowledge. This is very important for any organization, that you should have the latest frontline technologies at your fingertips. The fourth thing I mentioned was social responsibility. The three items I mentioned earlier are not enough. There should be a commitment to serve the organization, and through the organization serve the society or the nation. A desire, a passion, this is very essential. Whichever level you are occupying, your ultimate thing is it good for the country? Are we able to contribute something for the country? Fortunately, you all belong to NTPC, which has got a glorious record of service to this country, looking after almost 20 or 24% of the energy requirement of this country. This is a social commitment. I mentioned to you about Konkan Railway, which once completed, reduces the distance from Bombay to Mangalore, Kochi, Trivandrum, etc. by 650 kilometers. The other day I was making a mental calculation. After spending 2,400 crores on Konkan Railway, what has the country got back? I found that if you take only Keralites people who serve in Bombay or north of Bombay, and if you take the number of people travel on this route, and the money they save in regard to the travel cost, I found that this project has already, only through travel cost saving alone, about 24,000 crores have been saved to the country in last 20 years. Last 20 years. I have not taken the time saved and converted into value, money value. How much money the country has saved. I have not taken that. Purely in travel costs alone. This is the saving that has gone. Such a project, if you are able to do it so fast, I think that is a service to the country, to the nation as a whole. When Konkan Railway project was taken up, the financial commissioner of Indian Railways, the then financial commissioner, I won't mention his name, he gave me a challenge. You will not be able to finish this project even in 30 years' time. That is the challenge he gave me. I said, we will finish in 7 years' time. And we finished exactly in 7 years' time. We did not take 30 years for completion. Delhi Metro. What are the advantages the nation has received from the Delhi Metro? It is stupendous, I can tell you. Unimaginable. Can you ever think of Delhi today without the metro system? Delhi Metro today carries about 30 lakh passengers a day. This means about 3 lakh vehicles off the road. Delhi Metro is carrying the task of another 3 lakh passengers vehicles on the road. It is carrying out the task today, every day. Just what a saving, how the congestion can be reduced. Not only that, by running on electricity, the trains, and carrying 30 lakh passengers a day, the DMRC has been able to prevent 3 lakh tons of fossil fuel being imported in the country every year. So much of fuel savings. And using only green energy, electricity for running the trains, DMRC is preventing about 125 tons of pollutants being let into the air every day. It is saving. More than anything else, each commuter on Delhi Metro today saves 28 minutes in his journey. This is a study done by JICA, the funding agency. Each journey he saves about 28 minutes. An up and down journey means 56 minutes he's saving every day in his life. Just imagine how many man hours extra we are getting for the city by saving in travel. And most important thing, Delhi is a place where a large number of road accidents take place. Last year, more than 5,000 people have died on Delhi roads, which means almost about 5 to 6 people die every day road-to-road accidents. The Road Research Institute, Indian Road Research Institute, made a study on behalf of JICA again to find out how many people's lives have been saved by Delhi Metro carrying people in the trains very safely. There has not been even a single case of casualty on the Delhi Metro so far. They have found that every year, Delhi Metro carrying 3 lakh passengers, so many people by train safely, comfortably, and in air-conditioned comfort. We are saving about 250 lives every day, every year from Delhi roads being killed. These are the social benefits. Ladies and gentlemen, if you know that these are the benefits of a project, your soul and mind is always in the project. You want to finish the project path for the good of the country. This is the social benefit that you should keep in mind. Not only that, while implementing the project, you must see that, unlike what had happened in Calcutta, where the people had to put a lot of difficulties and inconveniences when metro was being constructed, we ensured that when Delhi Metro is being done, least inconvenience is caused to the people around. You would have seen the very meticulous scientific barricading that is being done. Works are all being confined within the barricades. Things are being done in such a way that least disturbance to the people. If we find there is a disturbance during daytime, we do the work only during night time. Least disturbance work is being done. Many people are not even realizing that a tunnel is being bored through below their houses, even they don't come to know of it. Like that works are being done. I think this is a social responsibility that we have, which has got to be kept in mind. With whatever project you are taking, whether it's a hydroelectric project, whether it's a thermal project, using coal or fuel, or any other fuel, see that minimum inconvenience, minimum disturbance is given to people around, and no lasting injury to the environment. This is very important. I had mentioned to you that in all this project implementation, there is a fifth factor that is very important. I am somewhat spiritually oriented. And I always had this in mind, right from young days, that everything that we do, it is not ultimately that what we do. Again, when he introduced me, I forget the name of the person, he was mentioning to me that there is a verse from Yoga Vasishtha kept in my room. All the rooms, wherever I go, I keep that verse. Karyam karomi, nacha kinchit aham karomi. It's a Sanskrit word. This says, whatever is to be done, I do. But it is not I who do it. Ladies and gentlemen, you may believe in a God or may not believe in a God. But you have to believe in that unseen presence, the supreme reality, which is guiding all the laws and regulates the whole world. Without the help of that supreme reality, you can't achieve anything else. Have firm faith that there is an unseen hand, there are eyes watching you all the time, and whatever you do it with the best motives, the best intentions. This faith in the spiritual values is so important. Right from young days, I used to read Bhagavad Gita very regularly. These days I also read Srimad Bhagavatam. But in Konkan Railway as well as in Delhi Metro, one thing I used to do was, any officer joining the organization, I used to present him a copy of Bhagavad Gita and exhort him to go through the slogas daily, read that, imbibe its meaning, its message, and try to practice it. Ladies and gentlemen, Bhagavad Gita is not a religious text. Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between Lord Krishna and the King Arjuna on the battlefield, which took place 5,154 years back. At that time, there was no religion in this country. You may wonder how I am saying 5,154 years. This has been estimated by our own mathematicians, Aryabhatta particularly, when this was done. And we know that this was done about 5,154 years back. This is not a religious text. It is an administrative gospel. A book which will give the guidance how you should conduct yourself in difficulties. What sorts of inspiration you can get from here, from this book. Mahatma Gandhi used to say that whenever he was under severe pressure, mental problems, dilemma that he had to face, he used to immediately come back to his room, take out the Bhagavad Gita and open it out. And he used to record that I always used to find one sloga which would give me the required consolation, solace, and encouragement to go forward. I used to give this, as I told you, copy of Bhagavad Gita to every officer who joins the organization, which even today I keep doing. Even the organization I am monitoring, I'm not fully involved, but I give them the Bhagavad Gita, keep these copies ready, and give it to him, and tell him that he should go to the sloka. As Bhagavad Gita, you should have a book which gives word by word meaning, but many of you may not know Sanskrit. So word by word meaning, the meaning of the whole sloka, and the message it conveys, that should be understood, imbibed, and you should practice it. This I found very, very useful. One of my management techniques in handling all these projects were that I used to have every Monday, 9 o'clock, a meeting of the top officers of the organization, that's directors, managers, all senior officers, every week. We never used to have an agenda for this meeting. There are no minutes drawn also about the meeting taking place. The main discussion would be what has been achieved in the last week, what are the problems we have faced, what problems we are likely to face in the next 1 week, what needs to be done. A similar meeting I used to have every first Monday of the month at 9 a.m. with the middle level executives as well. There are about 600 of them used to assemble. At that time, the main emphasis was on ethics and values in the organization. Not about the subject, not about any particular technology. What value, what practice you should follow, how to handle the contractors, how to deal with suppliers, how to deal with the public, how to deal with the government agencies. These sort of values used to inculcate on them. These values will stay on the mind only if it is repeatedly hammered in, otherwise it will not. People will forget it very fast. This I used to do very, very regularly. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a wonderful opportunity I got, thanks to Mr. Bhatnagar, to be present with, amongst you and talk to you on the 3 projects that I have. 3 projects I picked up, and there were so many other projects, I have not picked up those things. And I mentioned about Pamban Railway Bridge. He said, innovation. If you see, Pamban restoration was, as a result of innovation, the success. Konkan Railway success was mainly because of the financial engineering, where the state governments became partners. That's the first time a project of that type was done in this country. The state governments were partners and they were funding the whole project. And Delhi Metro, which was a technically complex project. Now, I promised that I would mention to you about the Pamban Railway restoration also. How we managed it. As I told you, it's purely innovation. What had happened was, these 126 girders were all washed out in the sea. Some were about 1 kilometer, some were 2 kilometers away. But because they were all washed out in the water, there were no damage to these girders. And with the help of the local fishermen, we were able to locate every girder where they were lying, about 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers away from the bridge site. After locating each girder, we used to pick up that girder with the help of divers, bring them up, and hoist them on boats, take them to the shore, repaint or repair whatever is required, and then use them for the restoration work. We did not wait for girders to come from Ambala or girders to come from Gorakhpur or Assam. If we had to wait for that, this work could not have been done. The simple way of salvaging these girders from the seabed was the main thing. The other was launching. At that time, these girders could be launched from one span to the other span only with cranes. And railway did not have any diesel cranes, only steam cranes in those days. I'm talking about 1963, 64, 65. There was only one crane in the whole railway system which could handle the weight of such a steel girder. And with that, with that crane, we had to launch one girder. Immediately after launching, put it in the proper bearings, then link the sleepers, put the rail on that. Then next girder has to be launched. In sequence, it has to be done. If that is to be done from one end, this 2 kilometer long line would take 6 months really to complete. So we rigged up, locally rigged up another crane from the other end, from the island itself, to launch basically the girders which were being pulled out of the sea. It's only mere innovation and local engineering that helped us to complete all the launching of all the girders and complete the railway track in 46 days' time. Innovation is so important. You have to deviate from the normal. This was not what was given to me when I went to the site. I was told there will be a crane and you have to use the crane and finish the work. We did not wait for all these things. Have had our own innovation, our own ideas how to do it. So one is innovation, the other is financial engineering, and third is technical complexity, how to solve it. These three projects I placed before you, and the work culture which drove these two organizations to complete their project on time, I thought I would share with you because it will be useful to organizations like NTPC, NHPC, or Power Grid Corporation. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak to you. Thank you very much.
If anyone has any query or want to ask the questions, these volunteers are there.
Sir, you mentioned about the three very challenging projects which you completed in scheduled time or ahead of the time. And those all projects were very challenging. How you manage the safety of those projects, safety in those projects?
You see, our priorities were very clear in taking up all these projects. The first and foremost priority is safety at work site, safety of workmen, safety of the public. That is the first priority in all these projects. These things basically we managed because we had a special safety team. In fact, two safety teams at the site. One was a safety team, our own safety team. Delhi Metro, we had two safety teams. One is the DMRC's own safety team, the other is the consultant's own safety team. Very meticulously, and they had overriding powers to stop a work if they found that something was wrong, not safe. And this aspect of safety was being emphasized in every meeting. That was the first priority. Second priority was doing the work with the perfect finish and to the best specification. That was the second priority. Our priorities were not completing the project on time. Please remember that. Not completing them within the estimate. The priorities were first safety, the other quality of work. Third was completion on time. And fourth, completion within the estimate.
So, one observation and a question linked to that. There's an estimate that since Pampan Bridge to your DMRC, the projects handled by him directly were worth 10 lakh crores, sir. Rupees 10 lakh crore worth of projects handled by him. And not a single controversy, not a single scam. Right through, what was the magic that you adopted, sir, that your acceptance was so high and everything went so smooth and so clean? The amount of money that you've handled is 10 lakh crore according to Ashokan. And not a single problem anywhere, ever. So how could you manage
that word I told you, integrity. That word integrity. There is a definition of integrity in Sanskrit. Darshyam ekapadam dharmam, which means integrity can be explained in one word, dharma, righteousness. Rectitude or righteousness. If you have that, You have the courage to do anything, any decision you can take. Yes. Mind you, all these high-value projects, Konkan Railway, Delhi Metro, I handled after my retirement. I'm a government servant. I get a pension. The government has no hold on me at all. How did they entrust such huge projects with thousands and thousands of crores on me? Because the reputation I had for integrity. And this is the reputation everybody should have. If you have the reputation, it is something like a passport in your pocket. This reputation, if you have, there's no difficulty in taking any difficult decisions. You can answer anyone. You can, any sort of audit para, any sort of vigilance investigation, you can always answer. There's no difficulty at all. Incidentally, I want to mention to you, when I was member engineering railway board, there was a serious vigilance case against one of the divisional railway managers. He's a civil engineer, I was a civil engineer, and the vigilance case was in regard to civil engineering. Any amount of replies that we were saying, nobody was accepting it, including the CVC, won't accept it. They were keen on punishing him. Whereas I was fully convinced that there was nothing wrong. It was only a small procedural lapse for which you can't punish a person. I took the file to the CVC, Chief Justice Commissioner, and explained to him about my views. Do you know his answer? He said, Mr. Sreedharan, if you are telling me that he is honest, I believe he is honest. I close the file. See, that sort of reputation has got to be established. Even a CBC is able to accept your version on that.
My question was on the same issue. Sir, you told that when a decision is taken in the best interest of the organization, it is the best decision and it should be taken. But still then, being in a government organization, we have to handle this audit and vigilance issues. So that you told that integrity helps. But please, I would like to hear on this audit and vigilance issues, how you handle in such large projects.
There are no difficulty at all. First of all, the Chief Vigilance Officer is under you. He may be reporting to CVC, but he's under the CMD. He's a part of the organization. And he has to be kept. You see, you should trust him also and listen to him. Same with the finance also. If they have an objection, you should listen to them. What is their objection? You should be able to answer it properly. And any sensible person at that level who has risen to that level will definitely get convinced. If they know that it is in the interest of the organization. In railway, particularly, the finance is a very difficult organization. They won't listen to anyone. And railway, unfortunately, ultimately they have the final power because they make the payments. But I had no difficulty to handle them. There is in railways also, the general manager has been given full powers to overrule the financial commissioner, the chief financial advisor. He has got the powers, but no general manager is prepared to do it. Why? But he is not sure of himself. In Delhi Metro, I had to pack off a financial advisor overnight because I suspected his integrity in certain one decision. In 24 hours, he was out of the organization. This sort of bold decision we should be able to take. If it is in the best interest of the organization, that you should be able to convince anyone this is in the best interest of the organization. Take the decision. And in that decision, if necessary, you should go to anyone, explain to him properly. I'm not saying that you should take the decision blindly in your chamber alone. This should be known to everyone. This is why we have taken the decision. If necessary, it has got to be recorded. We have taken this decision, even though it's a variation or a violation of a particular procedure. This is necessary for the organization at that point of time. Why not record it properly? These are all practical things. Everybody thinks this is not practical. It is practical. There are also people with good common sense, whether it's finance or vigilance. We should be able to convince them properly. This is a very topical question. The difference is in two aspects. One is technology. In DMRC, we have gone for a technology in signaling system, such as signaling system, that there is no chance for a train to collide. There is no chance for a train to start unless the track is cleared ahead of it. And there is any problem, the brakes will be applied first. The technology is very, very advanced. Not that this is not a very costly technology. It can be done in railways as well, which I have been pleading for. Why not we have the same sort of signaling system brought into the railways? That is one thing. Unfortunately, our railway, the technology is still about 25 to 30 years behind the world technology, on Indian railway technologies. We have to upgrade. We have to modernize. Our coaches are so old. Do you know that most of the coaches running on Indian Railways is 1953 vintage? Same design. Only some cosmetic improvements here and there has been done. That's not enough. Why can't we go for modern, lightweight coaches like Delhi Metro? They're a little more expensive, but on the long run, it's much more cheaper to have this sort of coaches. The other is the work culture. The work culture is one thing where you don't need any investment. No money is required. There is no, that work culture is not there. You write to, in railways, you write to divisional railway manager or senior divisional engineer, some problems or complaint. You won't get an answer. You won't get even a reply to that. Whereas Delhi Metro, you write a letter, I can guarantee a reply will come to you straight away. What is the problem? That work culture, that has got to be developed in the organization.
Present a souvenir to Dr. E. Sreedharan. It's a photograph. Thank you very much, Vishwal sir. And as the program is closing in, I may be allowed to say thanks to Dr. Sreedharan, Sri Jha Sahab, Sri Vishwal sir, Director Commercial A.K. Gupta sir, and Sri Roy Sahab, Sri Rajaji Sinha Sahab, and our consistent source of inspiration and motivator, Sri A.K. Bhatnagar ji, S.P. Singh Sahab, Datta Sahab, and the IT team of PMI and of projects of Corporate Center, all members of PSG teams, and everyone else was directly or indirectly involved in making this program successful. Thank you very much once again, and you all are invited to join in the lobby for a cup of tea.